let's move to important factors of brewing tea. So for brewing tea, you need to know some factors first before you really make the tea. So successful Chinese tea brewing is a balance of water. The quality of water is very important. Second, temperature. You need to know what kind of temperature suits what kind of tea. Next one is timing. How much time you need to wait for your tea, and the amount of tea you need to put into the teacup. So the combination of those factors all together. Finally, you need to practice again and again through the adjustment, through sensory and your taste bud. So from that, you will revise or adjust the way of your tea brewing little by little, which will help you build up your experience later on. So the first one we want to talk about is water quality. So for water quality, it's better to use filter water or spring water, but don't use tap water. So for tap water, if you use it, that will totally ruin your tea. Another thing I want to remind you is try to avoid high pH alkaline water. That will affect the flavor and also affect the aroma. High pH alkaline water is beneficial to your health. A lot of people drink it. But if you want to drink tea, don't use that kind of water. And the color, once you use high pH alkaline water to make tea, the color will be much deeper than the original color. And the aroma will be different. For example, it should be like floral, like a flower. But when you drink it, you cannot feel the flower aroma at all. So try to avoid it. And then the next one is water temperature. It's very important to know water temperature for making tea. So for green tea, the temperature should be the lowest. So what will be the temperature when you make green tea? About 70 to 85 degrees. If you have boiling water, you have to wait. Patiently wait to reduce the temperature. You know why? If you use higher temperature, like boiling water, to make your green tea, it will be really bitter because high temperature release the tannin in the tea. So once you drink it, that will be too strong for you. So when you make green tea, remember to reduce the temperature. And the next one is oolong. Oolong is about like 90 to 95 degrees. For pure or black tea, it's a little bit lower, like 90 to 95 degrees. So knowing the right temperatures to make your tea is very important factor as well. Number 3, amount of tea you put into your teapot is really important for like oolong or rock tea, tieguanyin, black tea, etc. So normally 1/3 or 1/4 of the teapot. But be careful. If you make pour, try to reduce the amount of tea leaves you put into the teapot. You know why? Because in terms of strength, pour is considered king of the tea. Because you only use much less than normal amount of the tea that reduce enough nutrients and then flavor, from the tea. So pour is the exception. So you need to remember, use less amount of tea to make pour. The next one is steeping time. So how long you need to wait until you pour it out from the teapot? Normally about 30 to 40 seconds. It depends on personal preference. If you like weak tea, probably you don't wait for so long. But if you want to have a stronger tea, then you wait for a longer time. And after the first 1 to 3, serving, you add extra 5 seconds or so to wait a little bit longer to have enough flavor to be released from the tea. So again, it depends on the personal preference. So if you like a strong tea, you wait for a longer time. The steeping time will be longer. If you like a weaker tea, you don't wait for so long. So personally, I don't like strong tea so much. So I won't wait too long for any kinds of tea I make. Okay, and then the sensory awareness and adjustment. This is very important, especially for beginners. So first of all, test observation. So when you make tea for yourself and then you test it, ooh, so bitter. What does that mean? And what can you do to make it better? So for this, you lower temperature. As I mentioned earlier, if the temperature is lower, that will help you reduce the tannin content in the tea. So number one, lower the temperature, make it weaker, and then shorter time. Don't wait too long if tea is really strong or bitter. So make it shorter. So quickly just pour out the tea from the teapot or lower the temperature. So those are the two steps you can do to improve the tea you are brewing. Next one is weak flavor. When you drink it, it's weak. So the same, you either put more tea leaves inside or wait a little bit longer. But I would say once you make tea, don't put new tea leaves inside. So it's not good. So just wait for a longer time to get stronger flavor out of the tea. And the next one is number of infusion. So it's always like this. High quality tea get infusion more, much more. So like a pour, especially aged pour, if the raw pour is aged around like 30 years old, you can make tea out of it for 20, much more than 20 times, 20, 25 or more. So that means the good quality of tea can get more infusion. And then the next one you want to be aware is the environment and the mindset. So make sure you are in a very calm and then mindful status, which you can appreciate your tea much more. Let's move to talk about the important concepts of tea appreciation. As I mentioned earlier, tea appreciation is a process of decoding messages from the tea. What does that mean? So when you drink tea, you can decode messages including, number one, how tea was grown. So what kind of environment the tea was grown. Number two, you can also understand, from the cup of tea you are drinking to know that what season was the tea picked and how was the tea picked. Is it a good quality or it's okay quality or the quality is not good. And another thing you can know is how was the tea processed. Is the process procedure, everything all right or anything wrong during the processing period, or maybe drying step is not completed, etc. So those are the concepts you need to know and also the important knowledge you need to have. So let's talk about the environment or the terroir. So terroir is a French word meaning the environment and the climate, everything from elevation and the soil composition to season temperature will affect the quality of the tea. So for example, how tea was grown. Is it grown from the tea plantation or is it grown from the forest? The taste will be totally different. So for example, if the tea grows in plantation with a lot of sunlight, the tea will be bitter. Once you notice that, you need to learn how to reduce the temperature to release less tannin, to release less bitterness. So knowing how or what region or how it is grown, that is important. And next one, can you tell it's from bush type or tree type? The taste will be different too. And how much rainfall or mist does the tea receive? As I just gave you the example, if your tea is really strong, you can assume that the tea must be grown in a very sunny climate. Too much sunlight, that will make it stronger and bitter. So if the tea is from the mountainside, like Alishan, or even higher, like Lisan, because of the mountainside, there are a lot of mist, clouds, and the temperature, is much lower. So the tea quality will be better. So knowing that is important. And another thing is using chemical or pesticide in the tea. Perhaps you will ask me, how do you know the tea contains pesticide? Plantation type of tea, it's normal that farmers need to use some weed killers or chemicals to reduce the harm from the insects. The exception is Oriental Beauty, I just mentioned about. So normally, farmers will use chemicals or pesticide to get better production. So that is normal. But they have to wait. They have to wait until it's safe to pick tea leaves. So those are the important things. And also another thing I want to mention is rain. If the region or during that picking season, it rains a lot, that will affect the quality of tea. So what is the effect? So if it rains a lot during the picking season, the tea will become washy, not so strong, but weak. So those factors, overall factors, will affect your tea appreciation. Next one, I want to talk about how was tea picked. So tea normally picked by hand for better quality. If the tea picked by machine, number one, it's for low cost, and number two, mass quantity. So of course, if that is harvested by machine, that will reduce the labor costs. So for high quality tea, it's always picked by hand. So it's a lot of labor costs. And then how do you pick it? So normally one bud, terminal bud, and two young leaves. In our language, we say 一心二叶. So 一心两叶. So that is the best type of tea we picked. But there is exception too. For green tea like Longji, they are normally just buds, no younger leaves, only the terminal buds, very small and very fresh, very young. So not always every type of tea are picked just by one terminal bud and two younger leaves. It depends. But no matter what, if you pick just the tip part of the tea plants, normally it guarantees good quality. Now, let's talk about how was the process. So understanding the type of tea with its making process is very important for tea appreciation. For example, we talked about how to classify tea, by color. So color processing will affect the color of the tea. And fermentation degree, of course, will affect the tea as well. So knowing that, once you see the color, for example, green, light. And then fermentation degree is low. And you check the flavor to make sure the processing is all right. So those parts are the important concepts or knowledge you need to know for tea appreciation.